there's got to be a better way, right? There's got to be a way for me to keep growing. I want to find a way that I can make what I'm making or make more and be able to enjoy my life. But it's definitely not going to be in the automotive industry. And it was hard to leave.
All right, guys. Today's guest has spent 25 years in the automotive industry and earning up to $400,000 a year. She made a bold decision most people would only dream of. She walked away. Why? To chase something even bigger in life, a life with more freedom, more growth, and a whole lot more purpose. But don't get it twisted. Her journey was not easy. She took a leap into high ticket sales and went 8 months without making a dime. And she still didn't fold. That's grit. That's belief. That's betting on yourself and winning. Today, she is living proof that you don't have to stay comfortable to be successful. You just have to stay committed. Fun fact, she used to be terrified of public speaking. Now, she's the one inspiring others to push past fear and close with a purpose. We're going to talk about mindset, reinvention, and the time she literally took a guy's shoes as a down payment to close a deal. Please help me welcome Susan Mathews. What's up, Susan?
What's up, Mike?
Man, I'm excited to be. How long we've been working together now?
Almost 9 months now, man.
Almost 9 freaking months. Doesn't even feel that long. That's crazy.
Me neither, yeah.
When you came into the organization, you reminded me a lot of somebody is very near and dear to me that I worked very closely for many years. Her name is Julie Henderson. Shout out, Julie. And Julie's just a phenomenal person, and she's amazing. And so you remind me a lot of Julie. So I'm blessed to be working together with you. But hey, I want to know, Susan, like, how the heck does one end up in remote high ticket closing when they're making $400,000 a year at a dealership and deciding like, I'm going to walk away? What the heck caused that to happen, and how did it happen?
You know, I was at the top, right? So 350 grand, 400,000 a year. I was at the top, and I kind of maybe stepped back and looked, and that was it for me. Like, I'm 48 years old. That's it. You know, I can sit here for the next 5-10 years, make what I make. I mean, I could do my job in my sleep. It was just very much the same every day. But I was never going to make more. I was never going to make $500,000 or, 750 or $1 million. Like, it wasn't there. There was no way. And there's a lot of talk about the car business going backwards, with interest rates and things like that. So, honestly, I was looking at taking a pay cut more than likely. And so I thought, well, there's got to be a better way, right? There's got to be a way for me to keep growing. But it's definitely not going to be in the automotive industry. And it was hard to leave. I mean, you spend 25 years doing something. I'd reached the top of several very large corporations, and it was tough. I mean, I kind of gave my life to it. So everything I'd learned and done over 25 years, you're just walking away from it. But that also required me to work, 6-7 days a week, 12, 14, 15 hours a day. I mean, I can't tell you, over my entire lifetime, like today's Mother's Day, right? This is the first one I've spent with my mom in probably 5 years. And we only live 45 minutes apart. But when you work 12 to 14 hours a day and you have, 1 day or a few hours off, it's a million things you have to do, So, I missed it all. So, I was like, well, I don't want to do that, right? I want to find a way that I can make what I'm making or make more and be able to enjoy my life. So I said, it's got to be out there. I just got to figure out what it is.
And how did you come across remote high ticket sales?
Man, social media. Like, there's so much hype around social media. I started looking into it, and there's all kinds of things. Amazon FBA, and all these things. And I was like, that's not me, right? Like, that's not me. So, the high ticket social media hype. I started looking into it. I would. Crazy enough, there's so many agencies out there, and that's the trap I fell in. That's where I was like, whoo, well, there's a bad side to this. And I was just green. I didn't know. So that's where I found, everyone talking, if you want a really good high ticket offer, you want to make 6-7 figures, you've got to use an agency. And that's kind of what I found out there. So that's what I did. I went across and found 10 agencies that, looked to be reputable, got on the calls. Of course, they all, have some type of fee to get certified with them. And I did that for about 6 months and narrowed it down to a couple. And felt like one, I was just drawn to a little bit more. Maybe the interview was better or whatever it was. And so I joined, and it cost me $7,000. I paid my $7,000, went through the worst training in America. It was like, hi, my name is. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, right?
No.
Like 25 years in the car business. The training was, it just didn't have it. There was no value to it. But I did it, took about 3 weeks. And I remember, saying, okay, I'm still working. Like I'm still at a dealership 12, 14 hours a day. I've got to get this done because I have to get certified in order to be able to get placed on this $500,000 offer, right? So I would get home at 9, 10, 11 o'clock, eat, take a shower, and go do 3 to 4 hours of training, and then sleep for a few hours to get up and go to work so I could get through it.
Jeez.
So I it, and then it was like crickets, right? And I told these guys, here's what I'm making, here's what I want to do, right? They're like, oh yeah, no problem. It was like crickets, and I would talk to them, and I've got thousands of messages from a very well-known guy out there who still does it. I'm sorry, it's our fault. All the excuses in the world. But what it came down to is that they didn't have the offer. Like they were just outsourcing me to a temp agency, basically. And so I went on probably 10 interviews, and these are all $120,000 a year jobs. I mean, I can't leave my $400,000 a year job and go make $120,000. I'm sure I'd have some extra time on my hands, but couldn't pay my bills. So I did that for a few months. Thought, well, maybe this is just the wrong fit. So I went to my backup plan, a second company I felt with, right? That one only cost me $10,000.
Only.
Yeah. So I spent my $10,000, went through the same crap training.
For 17 and though.
Yeah, $17,000. Right. So spent my $10,000, went through their training, which was about the same, a bunch of videos on how to sell. I'm thinking this is crazy. But anyway, I did it. Never heard from them. Couldn't get a hold of them. I never a phone call, not one. I could never get a hold of anybody.
Dang.
So, I did that for about 3 months after. So I'm probably about 6 months in. Then I get a phone call. They're like, hey, we've got an opportunity for you. I'm like, great. Where you guys been? Like under a rock. But, it was a tech company. And I know nothing about the tech industry. I really wasn't comfortable with it. But I knew someone who they were moving into the automotive space. And I thought, well, that's great. That's where I come from. And I knew someone who was consulting for them that used to be a rep for one of the vendors that I'd had for years. And we had quite a few conversations. And he was like, they're kind of a new company, but I think it's going to be great. The high ticket offer company, the agency, I guess I was using, they were like, this is a $500,000 a year job. They're looking to build a whole team and it could be $1 million. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I quit my job. I said, hey guys, man, thanks. I'm out, which they'd known I was looking. They were like, they knew I was looking. So I left, I went home, took about probably a week to get everything set up. And I started closing deals for them. And I worked for them for about 2.5 months. And funny enough, it became payday. And we had our big group Zoom meeting, the entire sales team. And the owner comes on and says, I can't make payroll. We don't have enough liquid funds to make payroll.
Dear Lord.
I said, I'm out. Like, I clicked the button. I was like, I'm out. And so I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I've quit. And I could go back, right? I've made this move. I've told all these people I'm going to do this, and I'm pretty prideful. I'm not crawling back being like, oh, I spent $17,000. I've got no job. So I was like, I got to figure it out. And about that time, and I've followed Brad my whole career. Brad's ad pops across my feed. And I was like, well, what I got to lose? I've already done this twice. So I get on the phone with a guy.
I've already
done it twice. What I got to lose, right? So I jump on a call. I get Stephen Jones, thankfully enough. I mean, honestly, Stephen Jones. If I wouldn't have gotten Stephen Jones, man, I probably would have been back in the car business because he was like, well, here's what it is. I mean, do it or don't, but look at the situation you're in, right? Look at the situation I'm in. So I took a few days and got on board. So, yeah.
There's a lot to unpack.
I know, it's crazy,
which is
right?
great. Which
It's
is great. I
crazy.
want to kind of tackle it one at a time. But
Sure.
the one thing I want to kind of understand, because a lot of people get into the remote high ticket space, they spend money with people, right? It's coaching plus placement kind of everywhere right now.
Yeah.
And most people don't get the placement, don't get delivered on the product. You've had 2 experiences where they didn't work out for you. You're $17,000 in the hole. How do you justify making another investment, like not knowing what the other side's actually going to be like?
So I think it was myself, right? I knew that if I found the right opportunity, this is what I wanted to do. This was going to give me the ability to make more than 400 grand a year. It was going to give me the freedom that I was looking for. I just had to find the right place. So it wasn't my fault that I didn't know the industry and understand what it was. I just needed the right opportunity. And
Mm.
my bad, right? Picked the wrong one twice. But people get divorced every day because they pick the wrong spouse. I mean, I just picked the wrong agency, right? So I could move on to the next. So that's what I did. I figured I'll find the right one. And actually, I don't know if I can say this. I interviewed with Grant Cardone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was one of I did before Brad. I interviewed with Grant, and I was like, well, this isn't for me either. That was my own like, whoop, not me.
Not you.
So I interviewed with Grant. But yeah, it just wasn't for me.
It's crazy.
I just need to find the right opportunity. I believe that I could make it work if I found the right place.
But that's the crazy thing. The fact that you believe that there's still an opportunity out there, even though you've kind of been burnt twice, right? Most people would be like, well, I'm not going to give it another shot. I've already been burnt twice.
I'm not most people.
Yeah, I love that. Come on. Come on.
I'm not most people, man.
That's crazy. So just to kind of unpack that a little bit more, you're working, you want to do something different. You want to have maybe a little bit more like freedom, be able to work from where you want, when you want, dictate kind of your schedule a little bit. And so, like the dealer's not where you want to be necessarily anymore. You're looking for a change.
Mm-hmm.
You get involved with one agency, don't get what you're promised at all. Get involved with the second agency months after, finally find a gig only to not get paid on it.
Yeah.
Have you had any issues getting paid at One Call Closers?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Hey, come on.
Not at all, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you've had some you've been making some impact here, and you've been doing a lot of wonderful things, which I'd love to get into, but
Sure.
Let's get into that if you don't mind, because, we're a show that talks about money. If you're in sales, you better love money. Okay. So we can't be shy when it comes to talking about money. So since that experience and coming into, One Call Closer side of things, working a part of Bradley's account, what does that look like for you? What's Susan's best month been here so far? And what are you kind of striving for? If you can kind of walk us through what that looks like.
So my best month so far has been 19,750.
19,750, baby. Come on. Dang. Let's go. That is amazing. That's a big month. That's a big month.
Yeah, and I have a lot of people be like, "But you were making 400 grand."
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, with that 19,750 is in my account. When I made 400 grand, what do you think I put in my account every month? Right? I'm self-employed now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I get my own stuff. Get to write my stuff off. So at the end of the day, it's a whole different scenario.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's crazy. And you're someone who just never complains, just goes with the flow, is very adaptable, and I think there's something to be said about that. You have a very strong mindset. Where did that stem from?
I think it probably started off being young. Both of my parents are very driven, and I grew up that way. And everyone always laughs. My mom and dad, if you walk in their house, there's only 15 things on their TV, and it's a sport, right? Like it's softball. It's my mom coached. My mom found out she was pregnant with me on a softball field, right? So I played softball my whole life. I played college basketball, So growing up in that atmosphere, I think you just have it. I think it was instilled in me at a very young age, and it's a competitiveness. And like I said, both my parents are that way. My mom always says, if my dad had a helicopter pad out front, it wouldn't be enough. And my dad's just that way. It's never enough.
It's never enough.
I just kind of grew up in that atmosphere. Maybe, and then the car business, a lot of people are in it, but as a female, it's very difficult to be in that industry. So to reach the top of it, you got to do a lot.
It's a tough business.
It's a tough business. And you have to wait your time and outdo other people because you don't go play golf with them, or, you're not related or things like that. So, I kind of learned to work hard in times where I wasn't getting paid for it. So I'm just the way I grew up, I guess.
Interesting. Do you think you can translate that into closers that haven't had that experience? Do you think that's possible?
As far as like the
The grit.
mindset or the grit,
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody has it. I think you have to figure out what it is.
That's right.
Right? Everybody wants it. So, I talk to people every day and they always say the same thing. I want to make more money. Well, everyone wants to make more money, but
Mm-hmm.
are you going to do what it takes to make the money?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what separates people. Everyone wants it. I mean, I want to go down and buy a lottery ticket and hit it for 74 million. You'll never see me again too. But if I don't buy the lottery ticket, my odds are 0.
That's right.
Right. So, I mean, if you're going to do this and work 3 hours a day and keep your full-time job, well, that's what you're going to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be a pro golfer? You go hit 6 balls a day, probably not going to make it. You're going to go spend 6 hours a day, you got a better chance. So it's going to be what you put into it no matter what you do.
That's right.
I mean, I quit my job, and just said, jump it, right? Like, I'm going to go do it. But I believe that I could do it if I was given the right opportunity. So I think a lot of it you have to have belief in yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yourself. The only thing you can depend on.
And that's a challenge for you, right? Right now, if you're out there, like, are you in alignment with the person that you're looking to become, right? You want to get to this level, but are your actions, in alignment with that individual to get those type of results? Something to think about.
Yeah.
I actually heard Grant Cardone say, if you don't, how can you win the lottery if you don't ever buy a ticket, right?
That's
so
right.
it's very
Same
interesting.
thing.
Speaking of, guys in the car industry, you have a little fun story to tell. I'd love to kind of, if you don't mind sharing that. But once upon a time when you were at the dealership, I heard a bald individual who was about 30 pounds more overweight than he is now walked into your dealership.
Andy Elliott.
If you don't mind walking us through that experience.
I worked for Lithium Motors, and we obviously had stores everywhere, and we were one of the first companies that would allow him to come in, and he was trying to just sell the salespeople. So he would say, hey, can I talk to your salespeople and your managers for like 30 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And the store that I was at, we probably had 200 employees. So
Wow.
they all get in the conference room at like lunchtime, and it's just him in a briefcase, and he's not a big buff guy. He's just a little guy.
No TRT yet?
Yeah, not yet. Stands up, gives the presentation. I mean, same energy, same everything he's got now, maybe a little less intense. And when it was all said and done, his goal was to go to those salespeople and, say, hey, let me train you to be a better salesperson. So that was the first time I met Andy Elliott, and that would have been 8 years ago.
Wow, 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
That's so wild.
About 8 years ago. So yeah, Lithium Motors and Corpus Christi.
And his training at the time, did anyone invest there? Was it like legit? Did it work? Like
Oh,
from,
yeah,
from that 200 people?
Yeah, we had a kid. Crazy story. He was probably 20, living in his car, homeless when he started working for us. It was like his second week.
Wow.
He actually lived in his car and had a gym membership, and he would get up every morning, go to the gym, take a shower, get cleaned up, work out. Big buff guy. And he had never sold anything before. And so he worked at the service drive. He would go out and, say hi to everyone who was bringing their car in, and they would try to sell him a car. And so he spent some time with Andy, and I want to say like his second month after, top salesperson.
Wow.
And then every month since then. Within 6 months, this dude buys a house, is making probably 30 grand a month, maybe more. And never takes a customer. Does it all off of prospecting and working a service drive.
That's crazy.
He taught him how to do it around what he was good at. And so, yeah, I mean, shout out.
Shit worked.
He took
the
this
shit
kid,
worked.
man.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah.
Someone took the information and implemented it and got the results.
Yeah.
Living in his freaking car, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's just shows a testament to what's possible. If you actually show
just
up
had
and
grit.
do the work. That's right.
He had grit. Yeah.
Back to grit. That's right. Bang. That's really powerful. So I appreciate you sharing that story. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
You say you had a fear of public speaking,
Mhm.
and now you're here inspiring others. What do you think changed for you?
I think a little bit of it's probably the older you get, right? I was always very concerned. So I would have to stand up and give sales meetings on a regular basis, and I would avoid it. And it wasn't like big public speaking. It would be, me and 30 or 40 people, we'd have to talk about our day. And I would let a junior sales manager or call on someone else, because I literally would stand up and be like, face turn red, like I just couldn't do it. I think it was because I was afraid of what I was going to say or how it was going to look. And, maybe that's age. I don't really care. I mean, take it for what it is. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. So, yeah.
So what do you think Susan's message would be to anyone that's like sitting on the sidelines right now and playing it safe, but they want to get involved in maybe remote high ticket sales? They want to have more freedoms, options, and choices. They maybe even want to potentially take a pay cut to have a little bit more freedom, but they're scared to make that decision. What would be your advice to that individual?
You need to get some mindset training, right?
Mm,
If you don't have enough belief in yourself to try something that you want to do, that's just a problem, right? It's just a problem. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I quit my job and jumped in, but I had the belief in myself that I could make it happen. So you got to find the right place, but have enough belief in yourself to go make it happen, right? So
How do you think someone could have a little bit more belief in themselves?
I think you just got to stand up and look in the mirror and say, this is who I am. And here's what I don't want to be. Here's what I want to be. And how am I going to get there? Right?
That's right.
Because if you get up and sit on the sidelines every day, you're going to stay exactly where you're at. You can't be upset about the decisions you don't make.
That's powerful. That's really powerful. What do you think was, going from being used to 25 years, working at, an office environment, having a lot of people around you, and going from now like remote at your house, maybe, I don't know if that's exactly where you close, but I'm thinking it's at your house. So what do you think the biggest shift was for you in making that transition? Was it like, was it hard getting used to like being at home? Did you enjoy that? Like walk us through what that kind of looked like.
I have a lot of people that I talk to. They're like, I want to be around people. And ultimately, I'm around people every day, all day. We're in group meetings, we're, privately chatting or talking or, in 9 months, we've developed crazy, relationships with the people that are here. And some of these people, we all just met for the first time, right?
That's right.
But we're connected in a way that you may not even have connected with those people that you've worked with forever. And a lot of that is because now I'm in a room of people who see it the same way I do, right? I'm not having to make a connection. We're already all on that same level. We're just in that together. We all have the same journey, the same path, the same mindset, the same drive. And that just elevates you on its own. So it's easy to relate to people that see it the same way you do.
That's right.
Instead of trying to be in a room full of people that you're dragging along.
Powerful.
So,
and speaking of that, Susan is referencing our annual One Call Closer Summit, which we've been here in Southern California for. And we've had, about 100 people showing up from, you saw how many hands got raised up for anyone who's here out of state, out of country. In fact, I have someone from Croatia that flew in who's coming on the podcast next, Big Albert. But what was that event like for you to be in proximity with all those people and be able to connect with them, be able to see others that are winning, maybe even at a higher level? Can you walk us through kind of what your experience was the last few days with us?
Yeah, it was great. I've learned a lot about success and what that looks like. I think, we all kind of give ourselves limitations. I did that. I'm making $400,000 a year, and let's be realistic. I thought I was pretty hot shit. I'm standing in a room, this weekend, $400,000 just doesn't, some of these guys make that in a month. Right. And so to be able to be around people that do that and know that they're just average, everyday people that have taken this same opportunity and done something with it is very humbling. Right. And they're all willing to share everything that they've learned from start to finish to help you get there.
Right. That's right. That's powerful. So I would love to kind of pick your brain on what kind of advice would you give to someone that is like, well, Susan, I haven't had sales experience. I haven't worked at a dealer for 25 years, but I know I really want to do sales, right? I want to get involved. I want to have a remote opportunity and I want to get better at this. What would be a piece of advice, if you could give one or two or three, of someone that's looking to transition into space, has a little bit of fear, has a little bit of uncertainty, but believes in themselves and wants to take that chance? What do you think they should look out for coming into this space?
Coming into the space, one, stay away from agencies. Seriously, like they're all over the place out there. I talk to people every single day that have spent, $7,000, $10,000, $20,000. I have a gentleman who's actually on our team. His best friend was a high ticket coach and placement agency. This guy was in the military. He was fixing to exit out. He paid his friend $24,000 2.5 years, no placement. He joined us, obviously he's working. So I don't think people know as much. I didn't know what that looked like. I believed, hey, you give your money, you get certified, you get a job. I didn't know they outsource you. I didn't know they're sending you to a temporary agency. I didn't know that they didn't vet these companies, right? I didn't get paid because they had taken on a client they didn't vet. They didn't know anything about this guy. It was just, hey, you need some closers? Sure. Well, I mean, I can do that. But I say be careful, find somebody that's legitimate, but be open-minded, don't be so afraid that you talk yourself out of it, right? Because I could have done that. I could have said, hey, this is easy. I'll just go back to my job. If you want to do it, just do it. And honestly, not having sales experience, you got a better shot than somebody like me. I have 25 years of bad habits.
That's right.
Of car business habits. And I don't know if, anybody knows anybody in the car business, but we don't have the best reputation, right? I'll take your shoes for down payment if that gets you to buy a car. High pressure, and that's what I grew up in. So I'm someone who had to break those habits to be able to be in a different mindset. Someone who hasn't done that, you're like an infant, right? You're going to learn it the right way right up front.
Yeah.
And
As opposed to having to unlearn maybe things that that
Learning
aren't
curve,
benefiting you.
Right. My first month, I think I made like $1,200. That was because I'm trying to close like a car dealer. Well, I'm on the phone, right? I'm used to you saying, hey, I don't want to do this, and I can throw money at you or drop your payment. You're right there. On a computer screen, all I got to do is click the button. Be like, well, that one hung up again. Stephen Jones would be like, maybe you're doing a little high pressure. I'm like, you think? Maybe that's why they keep hanging up on me. But that's what I knew. And so when I would get nervous or not know what to say or get in my own head, I would just, go back to those old habits. And that's not going to work. So, for me, I had to relearn things. For someone who's never been in sales, you don't have those bad habits. You get to learn it right the first time.
That's amazing.
So.
Damn. Yeah. That's powerful, guys. I hope you're listening. You're paying attention. Susan is dropping some gems for you guys here. Speaking of sales agencies, I know there's a lot of them out there, and I know we happen to be a sales agency, but I think the difference between us and most other quote unquote agencies out there is we actually have offers.
Right.
We actually have the clients. We can place you within our agency, and you'll be working directly for a Bradley, for a Ty Lopez, for a Robbie Blanchard, for a Bedros Koulian, for a V-Shred, for a whatever it is, right?
Right.
And so that's the cool thing about it, guys, is if you decide, right, that you want to be part of the agency, you'll be placed directly in one of our offers that have been vetted out, which I think is pretty cool because to Susan's point, most people are out there, they don't really have offers they can place you on. They outsource you, and then usually you don't get the job, and you end up in a position maybe like Susan, unfortunately, where you spend $7K, $10K, right? Don't get what you're promised, and then luckily, third was the charm for you.
Yeah.
It happened, but sometimes it doesn't happen because somebody on the team that comes to mind, I don't think you know him, but he sells on V-Shred, Steve Kozier. Yeah, this man spent over 6 figures. I'm talking $120,000 to get placement. Till finally he came across one call closers, dropped another X amount, whatever it was, and finally got the position that he was looking for. And he's an awesome dude. Steve, shout out to you, man, if you're watching this. I appreciate you, dude. But I like Steve a lot. He's a good dude. Well, that's awesome. So let's talk about, before we get this wrapped up, I want to talk about how you took shoes as a down payment. What kind of shoes are we talking here?
This was probably like in my early career, probably 5 years. I was in Florida for my first 13 years. And there was it's going to sound bad. I was probably 20 years old, 21 years old. I was a floor closer.
Your brain's not fully developed yet.
I was a floor closer at that time. So my job was to go in and close people when they couldn't. So this gentleman had a pair of Stacey Adams dress shoes, and he said he was paying cash, right, which they all are, but he didn't have his checkbook or he didn't have this or that. I don't even remember. And I said, well, man, you got to give me something, right? Yeah, I'm not holding the car. You got to give me something. Let me see your watch. Man, his watch was from like Walmart, right? It wasn't. I'm like, that's not going to pay for the for the gas cap. And so I'm looking at him, and I said, what kind of shoes are those? He says, they're Stacey Adams. I said, what'd you pay for them? He goes, they're brand new. I said, you like them? He said, yeah, love them. Wear them to church on Sunday. I said, well, give me them shoes. He said, what? I said, give me your shoes. He says, why you want my shoes? And I said, because you like your shoes. They mean something to you. That car means something to me.
Oh man.
You're wanting me to hold that car for you, so I'm gonna hold your shoes. So if you really want me to hold it while you go get your checkbook, I'm gonna have your shoes. They gave me his shoes. I put them on the desk drawer. Poor man walked out barefooted. Went and got his checkbook.
That is next freaking level.
It's just all he had, man. It's all he had. That's all he had.
That's all he had, and he really liked them too.
He really loved his shoes. So I mean, I knew he was coming back.
Just
for
like
his
you loved your
shoes.
car.
That's right. I knew he was coming back for them shoes. So I would always say I would let people leave anything but a child or an animal. So I've had people jokingly say, I'll leave my kids. No, that means I got to watch them till you come back. And then what if you decide to go shopping? I'm babysitting all day, no kids. So
That's
took
wild.
his shoes. Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Not one of my proudest moments, but yeah.
Sure. Well, I don't know if you know this, but I don't think male or female, the brain doesn't, your what is it, front lobal cortex or whatever, doesn't fully develop till you're like 25, 26.
Yeah.
So we tend to do all sorts of wild things before that age.
Yeah.
Yeah. But couple more things I want to ask about. I wanted to see what kind of advice you would give to someone who jumped into high ticket sales, hasn't made a single sale yet, just because you said, hey, my first month I did 1,200.
Yeah.
It wasn't a 20K month right out the gate. In fact, I remember, you coming in, and I think your first couple months was like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to get this thing dialed in. So what advice would you give to someone who's starting out and is not having the success right out the gate, as someone who had the same situation, didn't have success right out the gate, but then went off with a bang?
So something I learned this weekend at Summit that I haven't done is get a coach. Right? Like I don't have a coach. And I haven't really thought about it because we do so much training. I'm like, I'm getting what I need, but I'm really not because it's not designed around me. But, on our offer, something that I notice with a lot of people is they're struggling, but they don't show up to training, and they don't use the help that's given to them. Go get the knowledge, right? Like if you really want to do it, go get the knowledge. It's there. It's every day. I mean, Stephen Jones does training in the morning and the afternoon, and then you have this and that. So, I mean, use it, get better with it, do the role plays. We have several guys on our team every day that, when they've got 45 minutes to an hour, they'll send out a link, say, hey, if anybody wants to role play the framework, jump on. It's the same people they get on every time. Right. And so, and those are never the people that are, they're saying, I'm struggling. It's the people that don't. So you got to take control of your own destiny. Right.
That's next level.
You got to take control of your own. It's kind of like, again, like golf, right? If you're going to go swing a club for 10 minutes, you're probably not going to go pro. You got to invest in it. You got to figure it out. It doesn't matter what you do.
Constant and never ending improvement.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you said you're just scratching the surface of success. What is the next level for Susan Mathews?
And I just want to be consistent. I want to be consistent with myself. And I don't look at it like, okay, I want to make 30 grand a month or 50 grand a month. Honestly, I want to watch our team grow. I obviously do the Sunday calls. I like helping other people get there. The people who are struggling or don't know what to say or don't know what to do, and kind of helping other people. That's probably the thing when I look back on my 25-year career in the car business, when you say, hey, what was great about it? Well, it wasn't the dude's shoes that I took, right? like that's a memory, but not a proud moment. But I can look to the industry now and look at people that were, 20 years old, never sold anything, and now, they are making six figures and are married, and the impacts that I had from a lot and there's a lot of people, in my area that are making great money that I would stand toe to toe with an owner, and I have a couple specifically. He's never going to make it. And I would say, yeah, he is. No, he's not. And I actually had one that I see, he said, you know what? You make him a manager, and if he fails, I'm going to fire you. Okay. And he's still a manager.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes, I just feel like I see things in people, and I like to bring it out and help them get to where they want to go.
I love
Which
it.
is why I do the offer that I do, right?
Yeah.
And probably why I'm good at it is because I want to help other people be able to do that. I know what it's like to get up and do something, for probably the last 5 years of my life. Every day I get up, I'm like, oh, I got to work. I got to go to work. So I know what that's like.
Yeah.
And the dollar didn't matter. If the dollar mattered, I would have just stayed where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Gotta respect that, man. Gotta respect that, Susan. That's awesome. Is there anything we haven't chatted about today that you want to leave with our listener?
no, I think that, if you know what high ticket sales are, or you've listened to people out there, one piece of advice that I would give is that be careful who you give your money to, right? Be careful. There are a couple of people out there right now that will talk about how great they are and how much money they've made, and they're going to teach you how to do it. But if they've only been doing it for 6 months, they're probably not at the level to help you get a good job that's going to last, a good place that's going to last. So you need a community. You don't need one person. You need a community. You need several different people. And we have how many coaches? There's a couple of those that I really relate to. So I don't have to just choose one coach. I don't have to say, hey, Mike, everything I'm going to learn from you. I have Trish and, Rich and Ian. I mean, you have all of them. And so I think you need to look at a community and being around people. But ultimately, you just have to bet on yourself. You have to just jump in and do it. Because the longer you sit on the sidelines, the longer you're going to sit where you're at.
Let's go.
Come on. Susan Mathews in the building. Came in all the way from out of state. I appreciate you making this happen. This has been a long time in the making.
Yeah.
We could have done it virtually, but I wanted to specifically make sure we had you in person. So I really appreciate you coming down to the summit, hanging with us, investing in yourself, and being here today and inspiring others, being that shining light. Susan, nothing but gratitude for you. Really appreciate you.
too,
Thank
man.
you so much for coming on. Can't wait to do it again. Guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.